أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما. Assalamu alaikum everybody. Today we are going to start from verse number 142 of Surah An-Nisa, that is the women. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innal munafiqina yukhadi'una Allah wa huwa khadi'uhum. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسَ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Munafiqina, that is the hypocrites think they are deceiving God when actually they are only deceiving themselves. When they stand for prayers, they stand unwillingly and for mere display and do not remember God but fleetingly. So we know that the hypocrites are those who are playing a double role. They have one thing in their hearts and minds and another thing on their lips and in their behavior. So they would come to the prayers, but they would come unwillingly because faith resides in the heart. And if you have not really believed from the heart, then you are just doing it for show. And these people thought that they could deceive God, which is a very silly thing to think because God knows everything. So many times in the Quran it is repeated, whatever the translation is, whatever they reveal and whatever they conceal. So all that is known to God. So here it is being said that when they think they can deceive God, it is a self-defeating exercise. They are only defeating themselves. And of course, when they say prayers without belief, then their prayers are not sincere and will not bring about a change in them, in the moral actions and everything in their life. So when one starts saying one's prayers, it brings about a change in that person. But their prayers are shallow and so also everything else about them. And they only pray in public. Naturally, if they're doing it just for the show, then they will not go home and pray at the time of the other prayers in which they are at home. And also, when men pray in the mosque behind an imam, then there are certain rules about it. There are certain verses which they have to recite in their heart, and there are certain verses which the imam recites audibly. So also, when they are standing behind an imam, even then their prayers might not be complete, because then they will not be praying those verses which they are supposed to do silently, the silent invocations which are a part of the prayer, but they just do the outward recitation. So they are muzabzabina baina zalik, la ilaha ulai wa la ilaha ulai, wa man yudlilillahu falan tajida lahu sabila. They are in a dilemma, the muzabzabin, they are in tazabzub, they are in a dilemma between these two things, neither here nor there. These two things are faith and the other thing is disbelief under Satan's influence. So they are vacillating between these two things. The one to whom God allows to go astray, you will not be able to guide. So here in Arabic it says, فَمَنْ يُدْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَلَنْ تَجِدَ لَهُ سَبِيلًا. So some people translate it as the one whom God makes to go astray. God does not make anyone go astray. God gives everyone a respite, a time in which he is supposed to come to the right path. But if they overstep that time, if that respite, then God will withdraw his divine grace and then he will just let them do whatever they want to do. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tattakhizul kafirina awliya min dunil mu'minin aturiduna an taj'alu lillahi alaykum sultanan mubina. O you who believe, do not make unbelievers your friends in place of the believers. Do you want to provide God with a proof against yourselves? So here, this thing has been said many times in the Quran, and earlier also we had read it. It is said that you should not make unbelievers your friends in place of the believers. It's not being said that you can't make friends from the unbelievers. It's just that you cannot make them your such close friends that they become your confidants, and such close friends that you tell them all the secrets about the ummah, about the faith and about the believers. And also sometimes if there is a war going on, then all the secrets will become exposed. So do you want to provide God with a proof against yourselves? That means God will not like if you make the unbelievers your confidants. The word awliya, wali is the singular, awliya is plural. This means friends, and also it can mean close friends, confidants. It can also sometimes mean protecting friend, and that protecting friend is specially used when it is in connection with God, because God is our protecting friend. Innal munafiqina fi darkil asfali minan nar walan tajida lahum nasira. Indeed, the hypocrites will be in the lowest level of hell, and you will not find for them any helper. It is said that the levels or the ranks which go up, in which the believers keep trying to progress and to develop so that they can acquire a higher rank, and that is known as a daraja in Arabic. But when you talk about the levels of hell or the levels which are going down, then this word ad-dark is used. Innal munafiqina fi darkil asfali. Asfal is also something which is low, and sometimes it's evil also. So these munafiqeen will be in the lowest levels of hell. Nar is the fire, and you will not find for them any helper. Once their fate is sealed, once they have entered hell, then there is for them no help. Now, the munafiqeen will be in the lowest level of hell because they have performed a double sin. First is a denial, that is, they are unbelievers like all the other unbelievers. But the second sin or fault is that they are lying about it. They are pretending that they are believers. So that is why they will be in the lowest level of hell. And they also denied and pretended, but most of the hypocrites of that time, they planned to harm the believers from within. That was the third fault. They were concealing their real faith, and they were trying to find out all the secrets and everything from the believers, and then they had a scheme, a plot. They plotted how to harm the believers from within by trying to deceive them and to betray them. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ تَابُوا وَأَصْلَحُوا وَاعْتَصَمُوا بِاللَّهِ وَأَخْلَصُوا دِينَهُمْ لِلَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِ اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Except for those who repent and reform themselves and hold on to God and purify their faith for God alone. These are the people who are with the believers. God will give the believers a great reward. So we know about God's attribute of forgiveness. So here it is being said that those who repent and reform themselves, they have a chance. If they reform themselves in this life while they are still living, they have not seen the angel of death, then they will be admitted among the believers. Sometimes those people who come to faith on their own, they have a very high rank because they were not just born into that faith, but they considered it and then they accepted it. They have a high rank. So after having done all these bad deeds, if they come to faith, then suddenly they will be joining the believers, which is a great reward. Here the Quran itself says God will give the believers a great reward. Here in Lallazina Tabu, this is from asking to repent, asking for forgiveness. And Taba means to return to each other. It is sort of like reciprocal. When a person does Tawbah, then God also responds to him. So the door of repentance is always open even for the hypocrites who have such a, they are worse than the unbelievers because they have a double and a triple sin attached to them. Now here it is said, repent and reform themselves and hold on to God and purify their faith for God alone. That means that they stop talking about multiple gods, stop practicing polytheism, and they just talk about the one God. And also this sort of refers to the oath in which they declare that He is their Lord. Now, what is the oath that we as human beings took about our Lord? This is found in Surah number 7, that is the top of the wall, Al-Araf, and 172, verse number 172. Where you often read in the Quran about people having broken their oath or their covenant or their agreement with God. So if you say this to anybody, he will say, I don't remember that I made any kind of agreement with God. When did I talk to God? When did I, respond to Him? When did I take an oath with Him? So here it is in the Surah Al-Araf, verse number 172. I'll just read the translation. Recall when your Lord drew out from the bodies of the children of Adam the spirits of their children and made them witnesses over themselves, asking, Am I not your Lord? The Arabic for this is, Alastu bi Rabbikum? Am I not your Lord? They replied, Bala, indeed, we testify. This happened so that you would not say on the day of resurrection, we were not aware of this. So it is said that before all of creation came into being, God ordered all those souls who were going to be the children of Adam to gather in one place, and then He asked them, Alastu bi Rabbikum? Am I not your Lord? And all of them answered, Bala. That means, yes, we testify. So this is one oath which every human being had taken before he was born. Now, it is said that this is not present, the memory of this is not present in the conscious mind, but in the subconscious mind. And this is the reason why when somebody who is a good soul and he comes across, the proofs, the burhan or the proofs of the fact that there is only one God, then he accepts it immediately. That is because there is this thing in his subconscious mind. Also, even if you go to the most backward jungle somewhere, Africa or Amazon or whatever, you will find that every one of these people has something that they want to worship. Now, why? Where did they get this need to worship something, or some soul or some being? This is because everybody has this in their subconscious mind. So if they hold on to God and to the oath in which they declared that He's their Lord, then these are the people who are with the believers. So that means if they come fully, accept the faith fully. There is another oath which is also referred to many times in the Quran, and that is the oath which a person takes when he accepts that faith. For example, when people came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they said, we want to accept this faith, then they are in a way taking an oath. In fact, the Prophet did make them take an oath of allegiance, which is called a bay'ah or a bayt, and they would put their hand on his hand and they would promise whatever the Prophet asked them to promise. We had discussed this earlier in connection with Surah Al-Mumtahina, in which the women were migrating on their own without their husbands who had not accepted Islam, and they were taking the bay'ah or the bayt on the hand of the Prophet. So this is another oath which everyone who is following any kind of religion, when he accepts that religion, he in a way takes this oath that he will be true to that religion. And even people who followed Prophet Musa and Hazrat Isa, they also took this oath that they will only believe in one God. But later on, all this was changed. Ma yafalullahu bi azabikum in shakartum wa amantum wa kana Allahu shakiran alima. Why will God punish you if you are grateful and have faith? God is the appreciator, the all-knowing. Here, shakartum is that if you do shukr, if you are grateful. Wa kana Allahu shakiran alima. When this word is used for God, then some people also say that He is grateful, but He is not grateful. He doesn't need to be grateful to anyone. He is the appreciator of somebody who is being grateful. So sometimes words, when they are used in connection with God, they have a slightly different meaning. La yuhibbullahu al-jahra bis-su'i min al-qawli illa man zulima wa kana Allahu samiyan alima. God does not like open, harsh speech except by one who has been wronged. God is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. So, according to some scholars, after the hypocrites have repented, this means, according to some scholars, this sentence means that after the hypocrites have repented, sincerely repented, then their former state of hypocrisy should not be alluded to. No one should talk about their former attitude. They shouldn't say, oh, you're a hypocrite now, don't pretend to be a Muslim and all that. Now, if that person has repented and you know that he has, then you just forget about his former behavior. And this is one explanation for this sentence. This can also be about doing riba or ribat, which is backbiting. And in this, except by one who has been wronged, that means if somebody has been hurt very badly by somebody else, then he has a right to speak about it, to complain. The person wronged has a right to complain, to seek justice, to defend himself, or even to retaliate. So these are the people who can, indulge in harsh speech, but not otherwise. Not like gossiping and sitting down over coffee with friends and talking badly about other people. It's only for a purpose that it is allowed. In tubdu khairan or tufuhu or ta'fu an su'in fa inna Allaha kana afuwan qadira. Whether you do good openly or in secret, or forgive the wrong done to you, God is the effacer of sins, the all-powerful. Here the quality, the attribute of forgiving, which is present in a very intense form in God, because whenever he talks about his punishment, you will often find that this is followed by Inna Allaha Ghafura Rahima, or some such combination of his attributes. But the Ghafur word is often there. So here it is said that whether you do good openly or in secret, or forgive the wrong. That means if we have been wrong, the best thing we can do is to forgive the person who has wronged us by trying to imitate the attribute of forgiveness which is present there in God. And also it is said that since God is always in a position of great strength and still he forgives us, and which is a very difficult thing to do, because when one is in a position of strength, one can easily harm the person who has wronged you. But God doesn't do that. When he forgives, he's forgiving from a position of strength. And this is, for a human being, a very noble, and it is also a difficult deed. Of course, if one cannot help it, if one is helpless, then one will have to forgive the person who is in a position of strength and who is harming us. But when we are in a position of strength and we can harm the other person, our enemy, and still we forgive them, that is a very noble deed. Inna allazina yakfuruna billahi wa rusulihi wa yuriduna an yufarriqu baina Allahi wa rusulihi wa yaquluna nu'minu bi ba'din wa nakfuru bi ba'd wa yuriduna an yattakhazu baina zalika sabila. Indeed, those who deny God and His messengers and want to discriminate between God and His messengers, saying, we believe in some and deny the others, they want to follow a path in between, that is a path between faith and denial. Now this is not condoned. Following a path in between faith and denial means this is another kind of double game, because faith has to be complete faith, like it is said in the Quran, we had read earlier, that enter the realm of Islam kafatan. Kafatan means fully, completely. So here it is being said that there are some people who have a partial belief and partial unbelief. They're like neither here nor there. And they say that we believe in some and deny the others. That means they don't believe in all the prophets. They believe in some of the prophets and deny some of the others. So that is not really faith. So there is really, according to the Quran, there is no such path in between. The path has to be a complete path. Now, some people have also tried to start a new religion. And they took some, then there are many people like that. If you try to find them, you'll come across a lot of people throughout history who have done this. And one well-known example of this is the Mughal Emperor Akbar. He started a new religion called the Deen-e-Ilahi. And this was kind of a syncretic religion. Syncretic is when you take a few things from here and a few from there and you combine them all together and you present a new combination. So also it is said that the zikr that he recommended, and he was supposed to be the head of that religion, and the zikr that he recommended was Allahu Akbar, because his name was Akbar. So he thought this way he was also promoting himself. So in fact, many commentators think this is also a reference to the Jews and the Christians who do not believe in Prophet Muhammad. That means they do not believe in the complete religion and also in the Quran. So they are also neither here nor there. Because you see, believing in selectively in prophets means that it's like denying all the former prophets, because all the former prophets foretold the coming of the last prophet. This is also mentioned by the commentator Karam Shah, and he says that every prophet came and spoke about another prophet who will be coming as the last prophet, and they also praised him. But if somebody denies that last prophet, then that means his faith is not complete. He is not a believer. There are some groups which are existent even today. I'm mentioning this so that one has to be a little careful, who have become very popular, and they believe that all the faiths, the followers of all the prophets, whether they believe in the last prophet or not, they are also valid. For example, if you follow the religion of the Christians as they are practicing it today, then that is valid. If you follow the religion of the Jews as they are practicing it today, that is also valid. But that I think I cannot accept, because we have been told to follow the last prophet, and we have been told in the Quran that now I have completed your religion for you. So that is like following the complete religion. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَلَمْ يُفَرِّقُوا بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ سَوْفَ يُؤْتِيهِمْ أُجُورَهُمْ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Those who believe in God and His messengers and do not discriminate between any of them, they are the ones whom God will give their rewards. For God is the all-forgiving, the ever-merciful. Ghafoor is the intense form, and it just means all-forgiving. He gives everything, forgives everything, and He is the ever-merciful. So here it is being said that those people who do not make distinctions between the prophets sent by God, there is a great reward for them. And all the believers will be ultimately forgiven. That means if they have committed some minor faults, those will be forgiven, and their punishment will not be eternal. It will be very short-lived. يَسْأَلُكَ أَهْلُ الْكِتَابِ أَن تُنَزِّلَ عَلَيْهِمْ كِتَابًا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَقَدْ سَأَلُوا مُوسَى أَكْبَرَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ فَقَالُوا أَرِنَا اللَّهَ جَهْرَةً فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الصَّاعِقَةُ بِظُلْمِهِمْ ثُمَّ اتَّخَذُوا الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتُ فَعَفَوْنَا عَنْ ذَلِكَ وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى سُلْطَانًا مُبِينًا. The people of the book, the Ahlul Kitab, demand that you arrange for a book for them to be sent down from heaven. So you see, the Jews or the followers of Prophet Musa, as well as the other Ahlul Kitab, that is the Christians, but especially the Jews, used to demand from the Prophet, and they used to say, we want to see a book which we can take in our hands and which we can read. We don't believe in all this wahi that you talk about. How can we be sure? So they also kept asking for other miracles, like going up to heaven and bringing down a complete book instead of revelations, which were sent in installments. But here it is said, for example, they said like the tablets that were given to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. We know that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam received his revelation in the form of stone tablets, and his book was written out on those tablets, carved into it. And here it is said that even though Musa alayhi salam had brought those tablets, a book in a complete form, they had demanded of Musa something even greater than this. They had said, show us God openly. So, show us God openly is that they said that, the God that you talk about cannot be seen in a visible form. And these are the people whom Prophet Musa had taken along with them. It is said about 70 people, 70 leaders of the Jews, whom Musa a.s. took to the Mount Sinai when he was, that is Kohetur, when he was going to be given the revelation. And after they demanded, this shows God openly, this was from us, the demand was from Musa, when they demanded from the prophet, bring us a book, complete book from heaven, or from the sky, or from God. Then these verses were revealed, that is 153 of Surah An-Nisa up to 156, these were revealed. So God was very angry when they said, this was a very bold demand, we want to see God in front of us. And then God was expressed his wrath by striking them with lightning. Lightning struck them because of their transgression. Then after that, after some time, then they adopted the calf as their deity after the clear truth had come to them. After Prophet Musa a.s. had shown them all these various miracles, they still when two prophets, this is a rare occasion that there are two prophets leading a nation all together, they are the prophets are supposed to be leaders. Two prophets are leading them out of the misery that they were suffering under Pharaoh, and now they are free to practice their religion as they wish. And that is the time when they pass through certain township in which they find that the people are worshipping the calf. And they make a request to Prophet Musa a.s. They say, why don't you make us a calf like this so that we can also worship it. After seeing all the miracles of Hazrat Musa a.s., they said this. Again we forgave them this transgression and we gave Musa clear power. Sultana Mubina, that means Hazrat Musa a.s. was given, he is one of the most elevated prophets that we know of, and he is the prophet who is mentioned most frequently in the Quran. And here it says that we gave Musa clear power. Sultan is truthfulness and proof of prophethood. He gave so many proofs of his prophethood, and also the authority to command. One thing I would like to mention regarding the harsh speech which we just talked about, or backbiting or saying something bad about somebody, it is also believed that if there is something which is for the public good, then we can expose somebody's evil actions. For example, if a leader has been corrupt and nobody knows about it and people still keep electing him, then if somebody exposes that leader, then that is for the public good and that is not forbidden. Now we are on verse 154. وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ بِمِيثَاقِهِمْ وَقُلْنَا لَهُمُ ادْخُلُوا الْبَابَ سُجَّدًا وَقُلْنَا لَهُمْ لَا تَعْدُوا فِي السَّبْتِ وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْهُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. And we raised over them Mount Tur in order to take a solemn pledge from them. And we said to them, enter the gate prostrating in humility. And we said to them, do not transgress in the matter of the Sabbath. And we took from them a solemn pledge. So this is also recounting all that happened to the Bani Israel. And this thing about raising the mountain over them, it's not extremely clearly spelled out in the Quran, but you learn from the commentators that when they demanded of their prophet to show them God openly, and also before that they were supposed to make a pledge, then the Mount Tur was raised over their heads in order that they would not be too bold in their demands. In order to take a solemn pledge or a covenant or an agreement from them, and then later it was said to them, enter the gate prostrating in humility. Now, which is this gate? It is said that the land which is promised to the Bani Israel was Palestine, and they were supposed to go and take it back from those who had taken it from them. So they were told to enter the gate prostrating in humility, that is in gratefulness to God. And we said to them, oh no, that's another point, but here about the gate, what they did was they changed the words that they were supposed to utter. Now, in this humility, the word humility is a translation. The original word is sujjadan. That means in a state of doing sajda. So they were supposed to enter in the gate in such humility that they would be almost doing a sajda, or do a sajda first and then enter it. But they did not show any kind of humility. And because you see, a sajda is the lowest position in which a human being can be in relation to God. And a sajda is not supposed to be done to anybody else. And also the words prostration is sajda. Some people have an argument about a sajda of respect, but that's another point. We'll do it some other time. So when your forehead and your nose and everything, the highest, your head is in its lowest position, is in the most humble position with regard to God. And this is supposed to be the highest position for a human being when he is in his lowest position with regard to God. And since the prayers were given to the Prophet on his ascension or Miraj, it is also said that the prayers are the Miraj of the believer. So when they do their sajda, they are in their highest position, spiritual position with regard to God. So this is the reason why being arrogant and vain and boastful are things which are not liked by God. He likes us to be humble with regard to Him. In fact, when Prophet Muhammad went on his ascension or Miraj to heaven, it is said that God spoke to him and He asked him, what kind of relationship would you like with your God? I'm using my own words. And he said, that of a slave to his master. Now, a slave is somebody who has no rights of his own at all. So that is the most humble form of behavior that a human can be, the position that a human being can be in. So that is the position which is the highest position for human beings. Then we go further, we find that God says, and we said to them, do not transgress in the matter of the Sabbath. We have already read this in detail, that the Sabbath was the day Saturday, in which they were not, the Bani Israelis were not supposed to do any work, and nor were they supposed to do any hunting or killing or such things. But they tried to circumvent that order. They would go to the river where the fish were coming in great abundance on Saturday, and they would make a canal for it, and so that the water would flow and the fish would come and collect there on Saturday, and then they would close that canal and collect the fish on the next day. But that was considered by God to be a circumvention or a transgression or a deviation, and therefore they were punished. And we took from them a solemn pledge. So they were made to give a pledge many times, but they always broke it. Now we are on 155.
فَبِمَا نَقْضِهِمْ مِيثَاقَهُمْ وَكُفْرِهِمْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَقَتْلِهِمُ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ وَقَوْلِهِمْ قُلُوبُنَا غُلْفٌ بَلْ طَبَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهَا بِكُفْرِهِمْ فَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا.
They were punished because they broke their pledge and denied the signs of God. The signs of God, ayat, we have done this several times before, but there's no harm in repeating it. The signs of God are, first of all, the prophets sent by God, all the miracles that they show, the books that they bring, and all the things that they talk about, which we have not seen. We have not seen heaven or hell. In fact, the first ghaib that the prophets tell us about is the existence of God. So, and also about heaven and hell and the angels. All these we have to believe in without ever having seen them with our senses. So these people denied the signs of God. They killed the prophets. The prophets who were one of the main signs of God. Without cause they killed them, and they said, our hearts are secure in covers. They said, we don't want to learn anything from you. Our hearts are protected in covers, and we we can't learn anything from you because we already know what we need to know. So that was also a kind of a transgression and also a kind of a pride. They thought they were so knowledgeable that they did not need any more knowledge. Even though actually one feels the more knowledge one receives, the more one feels the need to get more knowledge, and the more one realizes how little one knows. There is so much more to learn. It's like it's like the 7 seas. You can't swim them all, but you try to swim as much as you can. So they used to kill the prophets without cause because these prophets were asking them to change their lifestyle. And they said, our hearts are protected. We don't want to learn anything from you. In fact, God has sealed their hearts. God says their hearts are not protected. Their hearts are sealed as a punishment because of their unbelief. They would not come to believe except for a few, or accept faith a little bit, like incomplete. So they were insensitive to the revelations, and this was a punishment for their disbelief. And because the time that was given to them, the respite that was given to them was over. And because of continuous transgressions, a person who keeps on being continually disobedient, he loses his ability to absorb the truth. وَبِكُفْرِهِمْ وَقَوْلِهِمْ عَلَى مَرْيَمَ بُهْتَانًا عَظِيمًا, because of their denial and the terrible false accusations against Maryam. Now, we of course know what were their accusations against Maryam. So their denial was of the prophets. They also, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, was from the Bani Israel. And he came to the people of Bani Israel, but they refused to accept him. And they also tried to kill him. According to their own thinking, they had helped to kill Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. But he was miraculously saved right at the last minute. So because of their denial and their terrible false accusations against Maryam. Now, what were the false accusations against Maryam? Obviously, the main thing was that she was not married and she had produced a son. So this was a very severe or strong kind of an accusation. And but the Quran calls her. Now, the Christians invented a husband for her. They said she was engaged to so-and-so, Joseph, and that is why she had this child. And the Bani Israelis, the Yahudis, they of course did not believe in him as a prophet, and they said that she had committed something wrong. Na'uzubillah. But the Quran calls her a Siddiqa, not here, but in another place she has been called by this word, Siddiqa. Siddiqa, you know that the spiritual hierarchy of human beings, we also found that in Surah An-Nisa verse, I think it was 69. The hierarchy is a Nabiyina, wa Siddiqina, wa Shuhada, wa Salihin. So right after the prophets is mentioned Siddiqina, Siddiq, and she has been called a Siddiqa. So, and now Mahmadi Pickthall translated this word as saint. So she has been called a saint. And in the Islamic tradition, we believe that she was a virgin, and this is known as a virgin birth, which was also a miracle. And all the details are given about her when she was told that she was going to have a child, how afraid she was, how worried she was, and how she had been taken care of. So God is not happy with these people for making all these accusations against one of the most purest females that ever lived, and which the Quran praises many times in the Quran. وَقَالِهِمْ, I'm trying to get this link of the verb. So all these transgressions that they committed are being mentioned here, that we have just been reading. وَبِكُفْرِهِمْ وَقَوْلِهِمْ عَلَى مَرْيَمَ بُهْتَانًا عَظِيمًا. Yes, this is what we just read. وَقَوْلِهِمْ إِنَّا قَتَلْنَا الْمَسِيحَ عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ atba' zanni ma qataluhu yaqinan. And they're saying, indeed, we killed the Messiah, Isa, son of Maryam, messenger of God. So here they're also calling him the messenger of God. If he is the messenger of God, how come they killed him? And you also note that everywhere in the Quran, almost everywhere, whenever Hazrat Isa alayhi salam is mentioned, he's defined as the son of Maryam. This is an extra kind of a title that is added because people had made him the son of God. This is why every time this explanation is added, he is the son of Maryam and not of anybody else. No other prophet has his mother's name mentioned like this in the Quran. Hazrat Musa's mother is mentioned, but not like this. That's in another context. So they're saying, indeed, we killed the Messiah, son of Maryam, messenger of God. The word Masih means one who passes his hand in Arabic. And Prophet Isa cured the sick by passing his hand over the sick person. It also means one who travels. And Prophet Isa traveled a great deal. In fact, some people, like to say that he never slept in the same bed twice. Of course, that's not true, but that's the extent to which he traveled. They neither killed him nor crucified him. So God is giving this, making the statement that Hazrat Isa was neither killed by them, nor was he put on the cross. He was not crucified, but it seemed so to them. وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. So they were in a shubha, they were sort of in doubt. It seemed that they had killed him. Now, there are several, not several, but innumerable explanations which every sect of the Christians and every other religion, they try to give some kind of an explanation to what happened to Jesus, Hazrat Isa. Now, one explanation that I think is very logical and which is easy to accept is that one of his followers, whose name was Judas Iscariot, he decided to betray Jesus and to expose his hiding place to the authorities. Because all these Bani Israelis had accused Prophet Isa for bringing about changes in Prophet Musa's religion. And they filed a case in the court of the Roman governor. But the governor was not at first willing to lay his hands on Hazrat Isa. In fact, there was this custom of washing your hands in public and saying, I have nothing to do with this. So the governor came and washed his hands in public and said, I don't want to be involved in this and I have nothing to do with it. But they insisted and then they succeeded, and it is said that Judas sold Hazrat Isa for 30 silver coins. They gave him this bribe and said, if you lead us to the place where he's hiding, then we'll give you 30 silver coins. But nothing is hidden from God and nothing is impossible for God. So it is said that Judas's appearance was changed, and when he came to betray Hazrat Isa, his appearance was changed and he started looking like Jesus. And then he was caught and he was put on the cross, and Hazrat Isa was raised miraculously up to God. Here it is said that they neither killed him nor crucified him, but it seemed so to them, and those who disagreed about it are in doubt. Yet, like the Jews are in doubt about killing Jesus and they have no sure knowledge about it, and the Christians are in doubt about his nature, whether he was a human being or he was God. Who was he? But they surely did not kill him. The Christians are not sure whether he was divine or he was human. Now, this is a kind of a critique this is a Quranic critique about the Jews' claim to have killed Jesus. And, here they say that we have killed the messenger of God. So at one time they are saying, we don't believe in you, you are not a messenger. And yet they are saying, we have killed the messenger of God. So they are in some kind of a confused state of mind. And we also learned just now that the Jews of the time did not believe in Hazrat Maryam's chastity and Prophet Isa's miraculous virgin birth. And the Quran speaks very highly of Maryam, and we find that besides this surah, we are reading about her in Surah An-Nisa, but also in Surah Al-Imran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, and then there's a whole long surah by the name of Surah Maryam. References to her found interspersed. Besides all these, there are other references in the Quran. And any believer, anyone who says I'm a Muslim and yet he has doubts about Hazrat Isa's birth and Hazrat Maryam's moral behavior, then he would lose his faith, he would stop being a Muslim. Now, where did Prophet Isa disappear if he was not put on the cross? Oh, I don't know where it is said, but anyway, God says that we raised him up to us. Also, I'd like to mention here that crucifixion was meant for the lowliest of criminals. The worst possible criminals were given this punishment. That means they were trying to not just kill him, but they were trying to also dishonor him. We also learn from many hadiths, and especially there is a very clear and long hadith about Prophet Isa's return to this world. Because God says that I have raised him up to myself to heaven, where he will abide until the time comes for him to return to the earth and to complete his lifetime and his mission on earth. And great detail is found in these hadiths about his coming, which is also said to be, in the Quran, it is said to be a sign of the day of judgment. That means that when Prophet Isa returns, his second coming, then that will be very close to the day of judgment. وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لِيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. And there will be none among the people of the book who will not believe in him that is before Prophet Isa's death, and on the day of resurrection he will be a witness over them. Now, some commentators think that it refers to that person's death from the Bani. It says here, none of the there will be none among the people of the book who will not believe in him before his death. But actually it refers to Prophet Isa's death, that is his real death after his second coming. And on the day of resurrection, he will be a witness over them. He will be a witness over them because he will be asked to say, how did they treat you? What did they do? What did your followers do? And then he will be a witness over them and he will expose them. So, من الذين هادوا حرمنا عليهم طيبات وحلت لهم بصدهم عن سبيل الله كثيرا. Many permitted things have been forbidden the Jews because of their transgression, and they're preventing many from following the path of God. So many of the permitted things were forbidden to them because, like for example, the spoils of war were permitted for other people, but as a punishment they were forbidden to take any of the spoils of war from the field of battle. They were supposed to collect them and burn them up. And many of the more lawful foods were also restricted to them. And for example, the fat of ox and sheep and the meat and milk of the camel, they were also forbidden to them. And because of their transgression, and they're preventing many from following the path of God. So this is again a double sin, like the hypocrites, that they not only did not follow the path of God, the true path of God, but they also prevented other people from doing it. Because how can one prevent somebody from following the path of God? One is by vocally saying things against the religion and trying to stop them, and the other is physically trying to stop them. And also another way is by setting a bad example. This I think can apply to us Muslims in this day and age when we are not following the faith fully. We are not following all the good things that we are told to follow, and we set a bad example to those who are trying to come to this faith. Then this was something that is going to go against us. Shall we keep it up to here because it's time now? So we have finished up to 160. Let's do a short prayer. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar wa adkhilna al-jannata ma'al abrar ya azizu ya ghaffar ya rabbil alameen bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Ameen summa ameen. Thank you everyone for joining us. Inshallah we'll see you again next week.